It's Hughezy, hello, and I'd like to start off by thanking all of the people who support me on Patreon. James J. And that's everyone. Speaking of Patreon, plugs. Don't forget to click on Patreon so you can see all the extended, exclusive, uncut material that you don't get on the show, such as the 60-minute long version of the Kenny Bolin interview that you're not going to hear today. That interview went on long, and Kenny said a couple of, let's just say, controversial things. And if you want to hear them, the only way you will hear the whole thing is up on Patreon. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I am at the Hughezy. And don't forget to follow the Creative Control Network on Twitter. And don't forget to follow the other Creative Control shows, such as Oh What a Rush with Animal, 69-minute Eargasm, and especially Wrestling with Reality, which just recently had an episode that had PCO on, and it's got a lot of mainstream exposure, a lot of press. Go check that out. It is a must hear. And then don't forget to go over to the official Keeping It 100 YouTube page. That's the official page for the podcast from Disco Inferno and Conan and the Hurricane Cena Helms. There is new clips added to that channel every day of the week, except for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Plus a lot of classic clips going on there too. So go over there, give it a follow, give it a watch. And don't forget to leave a comment, give a thumbs up, and a 5-star rating on iTunes. Thank you. Plugs over. Okay, today we've got the great Eastside Dave. You might know him from Compound Media. He's coming on to talk about PC culture and Star Wars. Oh yes. Then we got the infamous Kenny Bolin coming on, talking about working with Sean O'Hare, Jim Cornette, and John Cena. Oh yes. And then of course Dave Radigan and John Wanglund come on, and we do another one of our epic, long watch-alongs. In fact, you know what? Let's not hang around for that watch-along. John, Dave, hello. Okay, so guys, I'd like to thank you both for coming back on the podcast.
Thank you.
Dave Radigan, why don't you plug your social media?
Yeah, my social media is on Twitter at DK Radigan, DKRADIGAN. On Twitter, Facebook, David Radigan. Instagram at DK Radigan.
And we've also got the great host of the Wrestling with Reality podcast. Why don't you plug your social media?
We are at WWR Podcast on Twitter, and if you find us on Facebook, just look up Wrestling with Reality Podcast, and you will find Wrestling with Reality right on Facebook too. Give us a like and love us on there.
Well, what we're doing today is us three lads are going to do a watch along of a real classic. It's going to be Matt Riddle versus Cassius Ohno from NXT. So I'm going to cue the match up, and we're going to play it and do a watch along.
Okay.
The match started. A flying knee. 1, 2, 3. Well, I had a great time watching the match with you guys. Dave Radigan, why don't you plug your social media?
It's at DK Radigan on Twitter. You can find everything I do on the podcast mainly. I don't do too much personal life on Twitter except for posting great things. Facebook, David Radigan. Instagram, at DK Radigan.
Wrestling Reality, let's hear that brilliant social media.
At WWR Podcast on Twitter and Wrestling with Reality Podcast on Facebook. Give us a like and look us up.
Okay, guys, thanks for coming on.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, boys. That took a lot of time. Eastside Dave, hello. Eastside Dave, thanks for coming on the podcast here.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, Hughezy. Can I call you Hughezy? Is that what I'm calling you?
No. No, Hughezy all day, please.
Okay, fantastic. Mr. Hughes, I am happy to be here with you. I know your listenership, your audience, your fan base is probably like, who the f- is this guy?
Do you consider podcasting in general to be quite difficult to do?
Oh, yeah. I mean, sometimes it's actually, I enjoy the podcast because of knowing when to do it, and you can do it in your, like currently right now, I'm not wearing pants. I have no underwear on, no socks, nothing. So you have no idea where my hands are. And so that's another thing. That aspect of it, but it can be difficult getting the word out. You just got to figure out how to get the word out any way you can,
Yeah, for me, it's always like it's always a case of it's great when you come up with like a show's content, and then you do the show and it goes well, and you go to relax and you think,
Right. That's 100% the case. Yes. I have that feeling on Tuesday afternoon, every single Tuesday, when I'm about to do the East Side Dave show on compoundmedia.com, that I do that show. And yeah, usually I'm like Monday night, I'm feeling good. I'm like, I think I got a lot for the show. And then Tuesday, I'm like, oh boy, I am.
yeah, I've gone through this really awkward phase of getting a lot of people such as yourself to say yes to interviews, but then it's a matter of when.
Right.
Because I got people like Jay Moore and Jim Brewer and Anthony Cumia himself has said yes, but
saying that's amazing. Have they been on your show?
No, well, if Jim Florentine I've had.
Okay, good.
And it was amazing. He can, like, you can name one subject and he can somehow relate it to anal sex. It's like, so Jim, do you like pen? He goes, bro, have you ever stuck a pen up a chick's ass? Why would you know that? That's normal.
That's a pretty decent impression. Yeah, well, I mean, that is because he's a sex criminal. He's a degenerate. So, yeah, I mean, he's on several lists over here in America. So I'm sure he can relate everything to anal sex.
Do you think that political correctness is killing comedy?
Oh, it's the worst. It's killing. It's not even just comedy. It's literally killing society. We just had this past week Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, which is this great claymation special from the 60s. I watch it every single year. It's one of the absolute best Christmas time things to watch. And there was online people complaining that now somehow a show about magical, imaginary flying
fucking reindeer is sexist because the guy reindeer was just
interested in Rudolph because he was cute, and girls have way more to, and I'm like, it's
fucking reindeer, magical reindeer that work for Santa Claus and beats them if they don't fly for him on Christmas Eve. It's not to be taken
so serious. I think it's ruining a lot of culture, in all honesty, not even just comedy.
And they say that Baby It's Cold Outside is going to be banned because it promotes rape culture.
What?
And I bet you they're going to ban the song White Christmas soon.
White Christmas?
Yeah.
How is that? That's racist against snow.
Exactly. I think the actual term snowflake isn't going to be allowed because it's offensive to bitches.
It's offensive. The term snowflake is offensive to weather patterns and meteorologists. I can't imagine why anyone would want. See, here's the thing: we've gotten so soft because you know what? If something really bothers you, turn the channel, turn the radio station. It's so simple. People are not being responsible for themselves anymore. Just grow a pair and just go to something else if you get offended.
And speaking of PC that's killing stuff, do you think that political correctness is, in a weird way, killing Star Wars?
That's a good question. I'm one of the few people who's actually liked all of the Star Wars Disney movies. I did have, like so many others, a few problems with The Last Jedi, but overall, I dug enough of it that I enjoy the film. Like, for instance, The Last Hour. I see what you're saying. Political correct. No, I have no problem with all the different characters. With Star Wars, it's something totally non-related. I think that they needed a guy, believe it or not, like George Lucas or at least J.J. Abrams, to have planned out everything rather than handing the movies off. He directed Episode 7, then he hands it off to a new guy for Director 8. Then that guy's going to hand it back off to, and that inconsistency sort of screwed it up a little bit because everything that they set up in Episode 7 went absolutely nowhere because it was a different guy. You know what I mean? So I think it's less about, but I see what you're saying. I think, though, ultimately it's less about PC culture and just more about right now they're a little bit discombobulated in the Star Wars universe.
My whole thing about Star Wars is like that guy, John Boyega, that plays Finn.
Right.
Is that seriously the best actor they could get?
You're not a Finn fan.
He can Finn. The thing is, in a film about aliens and robots and spaceships and Jedi and all this stuff, the least realistic thing in that Star Wars is Finn's American accent.
It comes out every once in a while. Where is he from? England?
He's a bloody English.
I thought so. Yeah. What's weird about that is that they went with American accent for Finn, but then they let Daisy Ridley continue with her British accent. I'm not exactly sure why that decision was made.
Because she's a hoa. But one of the big problems, and again, I liked all the Disney films, Disney Star Wars, but in every one of the Disney Star Wars films, there's a part that just makes you go. At the start of Force Awakens, what do we call that bad guy again? Kylo Ren.
Kylo Ren.
He's able to literally stop a laser in midair and hold it there.
That was sweet, though.
Right? But then later on, he has a lightsaber fight with... And Finn, who's never held a lightsaber before until that day, is able to hold his own against the Sith Lord. And I'm sitting there going...
Hold on. I've got an explanation for it. For starters, Finn had that weird sort of laser-ish sword training as a stormtrooper, if you remember. That thing, remember earlier in the movie, there was that one stormtrooper who had that kind of weird stick that was like electrified. I think all the stormtroopers go through that. The second thing is, don't forget, Kylo Ren took a gut shot from Chewie. Everyone forgets about the gut shot. Chewie got him. We saw how powerful those laser bows are that Chewie shoots. They blow these guys away. And Kylo Ren took one like basically right in the abdomen. So I think that actually and I think we got to remember that, take that into consideration. See, I thought The Force Awakens set us up perfectly. But The Last Jedi just didn't, they tried to get too tricky for getting tricky's sake. You know what I mean? But this ain't no M. Night Shyamalan movie. We don't need a million. Or even maybe Obi-Wan somehow as a father/grandfather, if it was Obi-Wan's case. That's what needed to happen. Not Rey has no parents. That's crazy.
What was your take on Rogue One? Because to me, I personally thought it did more damage to Star Wars than good. And by that, I mean, it was a great film, but it's pointless. Like, you don't need to see that film.
Well, you're kind of right, except for... No, you're right. All right, fine. I can't get enough Vader. I had never seen Darth Vader's castle. I know some people. So, like, I do, like, some of the Star Wars video games. I do the Star Wars TV shows, like the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels and all that. Darth Vader had a castle. I was like, all right, that's awesome. Darth Vader's got a castle. I'm in just for that. Yeah, I mean, in terms of expanding, Solo was quite successful in some of that because I thought that was an utterly brilliant idea that they basically made the Millennium Falcon this sort of living thing a la like a droid by taking that one droid, L3 or whatever that Lando was into and putting her brain into the Falcon. and it actually expands the Millennium Falcon. It kind of is a ship, but it's also alive. It's like its own being. That's pretty cool to me.
They need to rename it the Millennial Falcon and just have some fat bitch flying around space going, "I'm offended."
Yeah, right. The Millennial Falcon will never fly. The Millennial Falcon will just be on its iPhone all day.
But that just shows you how good an actor Adam Driver is. Because not only can he convince us that he is this space Jedi guy, he also convinced us that he was attracted to Lena Dunham.
Very nice indeed.
But do you think that The Last Jedi, and again, I don't think it was perfect, but do you think it was unfairly?
Look, I understood here's the thing. Ultimately, I like the movie, like I said, because of the last hour. I think what people should have gotten was, don't complicate. Even had him die the way he died, which actually I thought his death was rather beautiful, but it's sort of like the whole episode 7, the whole thing was about these two sides trying to find out Luke Skywalker, right? So we finally get Luke Skywalker in episode 8 and we kill him off in the same movie. We couldn't have killed him off in episode 9. Was that really up to Rian Johnson to decide to kill him off? I have a problem with that, because if you're going to make, a little twist with Rey, and that, Rey has no actual parents, well, then give us something. Then we don't need a twist with Luke. Then just give us, it's a popcorn movie ultimately, and give us Luke Skywalker chopping people's goddamn heads off with a green lightsaber. You give that to Star Wars fans, they're walking out of the theater happy.
And plus, the fact that Luke Skywalker died, killing himself, but the war isn't over, so you'd love to go to him, "Hey Luke, you just made things 10 times worse, yeah."
And ultimately, I know that people said, well, it was a bigger sacrifice than just saving the rebels there, because he's going to ignite hope across the galaxy. He didn't know that. He was there. He was sacrificing himself for 20 goddamn rebellion losers. I mean, it was not worth it. What he needed to see, here's the thing. Here's how they kind of screwed up Luke a little bit. Luke Skywalker never in a million years would have been an asshole on an island not wanting to get in the fight. Every single time we saw Luke Skywalker from the original movie, he's out there, he's getting in the fight. Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi are warning him, "Whoa, you haven't finished your training." He's like, "My friends are in trouble, I'm getting in the fight." Episode 6, it's like he's going to return to Tatooine, Jabba's palace. He's going to get in the fight every single time. He picks up his boots and he gets in the fight. It just goes against Luke Skywalker's character to not want to get in the fight. It didn't make sense in that regard.
And Disney's also announced that there's going to be episodes 10, 11, and 12 coming, and they're trying to keep it all top secret. But do you think that the secrecy is done? Because, spoiler alert, it's about the Sith versus the Jedi.
Is that true? I never heard this.
Oh, yeah, well, they basically said there's going to be Star Wars trilogies forever.
Well, I mean, I'm okay with that. Where I think if Disney had to do it over again, I know that they didn't want the old man, I don't know if you guys have this term, but we call it like Monday morning quarterbacking, which is everyone watches American football on Sunday, and then on Monday morning they go and give all their criticisms as if they, are head coaches themselves, right? But like, they're not smart enough, as smart as the actual NFL head coaches, right? I think, though, they should have had Lucas sitting there and being more active, not just being this grandpa figure who they have him visit the set so that they can take a few photographs for StarWars.com and then bye-bye George. I think they really should have consulted him more and said, hey, where do we go with the Skywalker saga, and how can we bring the Skywalkers themselves to a close? Because George has always stated forever and ever and ever that this is a Skywalker saga film, sort of like the Corleones in The Godfather.
This is about this fucking family, which is again why Wayne needs to have the last name Skywalker at the end of the day. If you have Kylo Ren and he's part Skywalker, you know, he's part Solo, he's part Skywalker, you got Wayne as his part Skywalker.
And you got something there. So, you know, where do you go for episodes 10, 11, and 12? I guess it all depends on episode 9. A lot of pressure, though, I'm going to say, is on J.J. Abrams. This is going to be, like, insane amount of pressure on this dude.
Big time. But apparently they're letting that guy, Rian Johnson, he's in charge of this next trilogy.
Oh, well, I heard about the Rian Johnson one. So, okay, so the Rian Johnson one, they actually say isn't even going to be an episode. I did hear that they're giving him a trilogy, but that it's going to be a trilogy that's not even set like, you know how they say a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. This might actually, the Rian Johnson trilogy, which is rumored about, might not even be in the same kind of galaxy. It could be like a totally different, like it was something where it's not the reached by the Empire or Rebellion, that there's their own crazy ass cosmic
Fucking space concept going on. And that to me sounded interesting when I set up a whole new galaxy within the Star Wars universe. I don't know if
Johnson's gonna get that though after the Last Jedi, you know.
I just hope that the casting is very diverse, because that's all that matters to me. So, of course, with Disney being in charge of Star Wars now, and Disney's trying to really shove it up the arse of Netflix, and they've got this their own streaming service coming. Mm-hmm. But it seems to be that they are announcing a lot of like special films or mini series for Star Wars, but they're all prequels. And the question to you is, do you actually care?
I mean, I guess it depends on what we're talking about. Look, Ewan McGregor is out there. And even for the people who didn't like the prequel trilogy, they all begrudgingly say, well, I didn't like the prequel trilogy, but Ewan McGregor was great as Obi-Wan Kenobi. Even people who weren't into the prequel trilogy for Star Wars will say, hey, he's out there. You know, if we can make some sort of Obi-Wan movie, or even 2 huge Obi-Wan movies that take place 10 years before episode, like right in the middle of episodes 3 and 4, I'm all for that. And I guess technically that would be considered to be another prequel type, or you know, another prequel film or 2 movies of that. If that's the case, I'm okay. I don't think I need to see a Boba Fett movie, you know? I mean, it sounds cool on paper, but like, I think they would be sort of tempted to make Boba Fett somehow a good guy. And we cannot have that. We can't go back and start changing established characters. Boba Fett is a no, you cross-eyed on Google Hangouts.
But
it will electrocute you through the computer. Okay, so be careful.
But if I could make any Star Wars film, I'd like to make a rated R adaptation of the Battlefront game.
Yes.
So it'd be like a Saving Private Ryan version for like a 2.5 hour long of like 60% all action.
Well, that is actually what they said happened with Rogue One. And they sort of screwed up a little bit. They gave Gareth Edwards the missive, you know, that we want these standalone movies to have different vibes and be different things. So as a result, we want a more war film gritty thing. They said, the rumor is that Gareth Edwards came back and actually delivered on what they had asked, but that they then considered it to be too gritty and too much of a war film. So as a result, they said, hey, we need to, Disney-fy this a little bit. We need to sweeten this up a little bit. And that's when they brought in the Tony Gilroy guy to help kind of redo the end in the middle and some and introduce some humor and stuff like that, because they said Gareth Edwards did deliver a gritty war film, but that Disney they got nervous about it.
Well, whatever they do next, I want to see a scene where some sort of giant creature has a battle with an Arad machine.
Yeah, that's exactly. And by the way, those Star Wars Battlefront games are great. I know Star Wars Battlefront 2 had a lot of controversy, and I don't blame anyone getting mad. You buy a
$60, $70 game. That should be the end of your purchases. You should have to then open up the game.
And spend more money on
Fucking buy the goddamn Obi-Wan jetpack or fucking space sneakers or some bullshit like that. Like, now give me everything. I don't want to buy any more shit. This isn't my life.
Exactly. And we've come to the topic that I've been dying to speak to you about for a while. Because I'm in such a minority with this opinion, but I'll fight to defend it. I think Attack of the Clones is the best ever Star Wars film, and it's the one I've watched the most.
I love it.
The thing is, I'll give you this. I'll admit that the acting is very bad in the love story scene.
Okay.
But the rest of it, it's just like, see, depending on how big your TV is. But put it like this, back in my mom's house, they have this home cinema screen, and it's 9 foot tall and 7 foot wide with surround sound.
Okay.
Attack of the Clones is the greatest home cinema film ever.
I know what you're saying with that, and people don't give George Lucas enough credit with consistently revolutionizing a lot of stuff, like sound, like special effects. I happen to be a fan of the prequels. For prequel, my favorite is Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Having said that, I appreciate the fact that you like Attack of the Clones. I'll tell you one thing: when Obi-Wan and Anakin are chasing that bounty hunter through Coruscant,
that shit is insane. Also, the Obi-Wan fight
is phenomenal.
Yeah,
it's one of the best fights in all of the Star Wars films. The ending with all those Jedi in that Coliseum and stuff like that, leading to the first time we ever saw Yoda ignite a lightsaber and start fighting, was pretty badass. So I appreciate your love of Attack of the Clones. I'm going to give you 4 points for that. Okay.
And let's not forget the fact that during the space chase, you get the greatest sound effect of all time, where it goes,
that delay. Yes, the delay. When Jango Fett is throwing those weird delay kind of bombs at Obi-Wan, and it's like, yeah, that thing is amazing.
When you get that in surround sound and you gradually hear it going throughout all the speakers, you think, why don't I watch this film more often?
So one of the things that I like to do is where it's legal, I should say, in America, where it's legal, I'm going to preface that, is to have a magical candy, okay? And these are wonderful, wonderful magical candies. And what I like to do is have one and watch one of the Star Wars. I am telling you, Star Wars on a magical candy, any of the Star Wars films, in fact, truly works. And lately, my go-to for a candy and a Star Wars watch is actually Solo, because the 10-minute Kessel Run sequence is amongst the best.
It's a great. I'm a Marvel till I die, so Marvel would be my main franchise, but Star Wars is just like hooking up to my veins.
Yeah, right. And I dig the Marvel universe. It's the only thing that prevents me from loving. Like I'm pretty damn good with it. I'm solid. I loved the Infinity Wars and all that. Missed a Thor or had like seen all of the Captain America movies. Like, I'm not sure. I know I check out all the Iron Man. So many films. Once a year is just fine. Now we're gonna have 2 live action series coming out. Like, okay, that's all cool. I get you want to sell this Disney app and it's hard to come up with stories like that,
Definitely.
And
as we come to the final question, Dave.
Final question. All right.
Thanks so much for your time, but this is a very important question.
All right.
Your whole career and your success relies on the answer to this question.
Okay. This is difficult.
The Spice Girls are back. Who's your favorite Spice Girl?
Okay. Who is my favorite Spice Girl? Because I believe Posh, Victoria Beckham, is not going with them. Am I right about that?
You would be right. Because
of that, I can only choose. I don't know why I'm putting these bizarre restrictions on myself. I am somehow putting I created rules for this game for myself. I am going to go with Ginger Spice.
I'm sorry, that's the wrong answer. We were looking for Baby Spice.
Baby Spice. Okay, you know what? Baby Spice these days is probably the one who is looking the best. I'll be honest with you. But back in the day, Ginger Spice was on fire.
She could have given me AIDS and I'd have said, let's have some good lunch.
She actually did give me AIDS. And I said the same thing. Yeah, it was wonderful. It was the best AIDS I ever got. It was great.
It was the AIDS of the year.
Right?
Well, listen, Dave, I want to thank you for your time here.
Oh, man, Hughezy, thank you for having me on, brother.
And I'll send you the link to this in probably about a day or two.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Awesome, Hughezy. Thank you a lot, buddy. Anytime.
May the force be with you.
You too, brother.
Thank you, Dave. I'd love to go drinking with that guy. Kenny Bolin. Hello. Well, hey, Kenny Bolin, thanks for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome. Is that our opening? Is this how we open the show? We just hop right into it?
Oh, yeah. Well, I usually record all the intros and stuff.
There you go. Well, here, let me just let Alexa, aka computer. I'm going to let my computer, aka Alexa. Well, I activated her too soon. I'm going to let her tell you exactly who I am, and then we will get on with this show. Computer, who is Kenny Bolin?
Kenny Bolin is a former professional wrestling manager and author, best known as the lead villainous manager in Ohio Valley Wrestling as the manager of Bolin Services. He also hosts a podcast radio show called The Bolin Alley. On the show, he is often critical of today's wrestling content, and has feuded with other Who's Slamming Who on-air talent, including Jim Cornette, Lanny Poffo, and Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Brady Hicks.
I don't even know if we need to do a show now after all that. I mean, hell, you know everything there is to know about me thanks to good old Alexa there, the Echo Dot.
I don't even know who Brady Hicks is.
I can't believe that my Wikipedia reads that. Apparently, Alexa reads my Wikipedia page. And I don't know. Brady Hicks must have edited my my page, because I don't know why the hell the name Brady Hicks would be on my Wikipedia page. I think he used to host my first podcast I ever did. I think he was in on that back on Who's Slamming Who.
Yeah.
No, that's going back 12, 13 years maybe. And I think he was among the first hosts I dealt with. There was 2 or 3 of them over there. And I'm thinking that's why that got worked in there. That was tying me into my podcast history. So how this thing now? Of course, I do my own podcast called The Bowling Alley, but and you're located exactly where now? Where are you at?
Belfast, Ireland.
Belfast. All right. Obviously, every redneck, every idiot in the world's heard of Belfast, and not Bellevue in New York, where they put the crazy people. This is Belfast, where they also put a few crazy people, I guess.
Oh yeah, like their absolute mental illness is a fashion trend over here.
Well, I got some family members that would feel right at home over there.
Well, speaking of people who sound like they could be Irish, I want to talk about a wrestler called Sean O'Hare.
Oh yeah, as a matter of fact, I managed Sean O'Hare in back in the OVW days.
Well, to me, when I first seen Sean O'Hare in WCW, to me it was I just looked at him and thought that guy is going to be a headliner of WrestleMania. He had everything. So, talk to me a little bit about your experiences with Sean O'Hare and about where you think maybe he went wrong in his WWE career.
Well, we got him. I think he had a little bit of experience in WCW, and then we got him. I didn't know much of anything about him. I was not a WCW fan at all at that time. And he was the biggest Spider-Man fan in the world. I don't know if you knew that or not. He actually had Spider-Man tattoos up and down his arm, all over his chest, his back. I mean, just wherever he could put a Spider-Man tattoo, you could find one. And his promos were not really the best. He was that's how he ended up with me. They felt he needed a manager. So Sean O'Hare was with me, Mark Henry. Listen to this damn lineup. Me, Mark Henry, John Cena, Rico Constantino, Bull Buchanan, and God, who else do we have during that time? Rob Conway, Eugene. So I had a damn all-star team, which none of these people other than Mark Henry knew they were ever going to see a day in the WWE. There were no guarantees. Mark Henry knew he was going to be there because he was already under contract when he got here. He just didn't get to go back as soon as he thought he was going to go. Mark thought he was going back in a couple of weeks, and I think he actually got back up there in full status with him maybe in a couple of years. So he was there for a while. And but now Sean had one hell of a temper. He was very easily rattled to the point of wanting to fight you. But here's the thing. He never started one of the fights that I ever heard of him being in. It was always some dumbass. What's the language at on this show?
Oh, you can, well, over here in Ireland, we swear a lot. So
yeah. Well, I do here on the bowling alley too, but well, let's just say that some dumb out together. The brother would get drunk, get into a fight, and then Sean would end up bailing him out of the fight. And but the brother was half the size of Sean, with twice the attitude. And Sean, like I said, I don't remember him ever starting a fight, but people would always start them with him, and then 99 times out of 100, he'd finish them. And I remember we had a thing in the locker room once. My brother was going to be a valet for Rene Dupree. There's another one that was with us at Bowling Services that made it up to the WWE. And so my brother was going to be like a one-time valet for him. And then we were going to fire my brother that night because my brother came in looking like he ran a car wash or a junkyard or something. I mean, he just wasn't valet material. And my brother was terrified of Sean O'Hare. He just thought, man, if there's ever a guy in this locker room that's going to kill me. And Sean always looked like he was in a bad mood. I mean, you just never, ever thought this man was in a good mood. And so I knew my brother was terrified of him. So I said, hey, Sean, I said, I'm going to as I want you to tell my brother, hey, I hear you've been running your Sure enough, my brother's been out and he's done the bit with us. So he's done. Now he thinks he's a big TV star. So my brother goes back, grabs a chair in the locker room. Sean looks over him and says, "What are you doing?" Hey, just having a seat, man. Kenny Bolin's brother, Tim Razor. Yeah, I know who the you know. And he says, number one, he says, the so-and-so was sitting in that chair and you need to move your big ass right now. So now Timmy John's 6'4", about 350 pounds, but Sean O'Hare ain't. Carries if you're in somebody's. Let him know that I never seen him. So I don't want to be in there because I don't want to be in there to have to bail him out. I want him to sink or swim on his own and see what he's going to do. So as the boys are telling me the stories, they said finally about a minute, 2 minutes goes by and he looks over. He said, "What are you doing running your?" Oh no, you can ask Kenny, man. I love your kick. Yeah, I did ask Kenny. Kenny says you say they look like and he's doing this better than any. The locker room does not know that this is a work. So he's fooling the locker room. He's definitely fooling my brother. And he says, let me tell you something, you woman. When this show's over, you're going to have to go out in that parking lot and you're going to have to get in your car. I'm going to have to go out in the parking lot and get in my car. He says, so if you think for one for you, you're not. My brother's like, what? You're dead. And then he walks out of the locker room and Sean's dying when he gets to me. He says, Kenny, he bought every. Told him that you weren't that complimentary of his kicks, that you thought he could do better. Man, I never. And he did. You'd set him straight. God damn, man. He's. Goddamn. Oh, well, everything's fine. Come here and give me a hug. So Tim goes over and hugs him, and he's just thinking, God, he ain't gonna get his ass beat. But Jimmy Cornette says, God damn, he said if he could. You're your brother. I said, that's what they all told me. I said, I don't know why he can't do it on TV. So Sean eventually goes to the WWE, and have you seen the videos of the gimmick they gave him? And he says, where he's encouraging you to cheat on your taxes and cheat on your wife, and go ahead, cheat on your taxes. Who cares? Nothing's going to happen to you. And I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know. Do you remember seeing those?
Yeah, that was the Tyler Fight Club.
It might have been, but it was always Sean in a long black trench coat, had the hair long, and a white background, and he would walk out and he would come up with some immoral thing for you to do. Cheat on your wife, cheat on your taxes, drive on the wrong side of the road, drive drunk, whatever. But he would come out each week for like 10 weeks in a row and give you something immoral to do. I want you to know they never went anywhere with it because everyone's eating it up. They can't wait to see this thing pan out. And Vince didn't get it. Vince did not understand what they were doing. So they ended up not doing it.
Do you not find it weird how much stuff gets on the WWE TV that Vince is like, well, I don't understand it, so therefore just push Triple H instead.
That seems to be pretty much what the plan B always is, just push Triple H. And here we are. I mean, that. Stephanie assumed that they could do it better themselves by opening up NXT. We had a budget each year to run that operation of maybe $250,000. And NXT, I hear, is on a budget of in the multi-millions of dollars, multi-million-dollar studio. Can you imagine what we could have done with the Cenas and the O'Hairs and the Mark Henrys, the Dolph Zigglers, the Rene Dupree's, the Batistas, the Brock Lesnar's, the Matt Morgans, all the. It's amazing how many people we could get over down here that were huge successes, and the crowds would eat them up 100%. But they'd go up there, and then because it wasn't their idea, they would just. Demon of the Deep, who was risen from the Ohio River, and he was a monster, and he was our number one heel for a while, and he was our number one babyface for a while, and he was a pain in the ass to deal with sometimes, and was sick a lot. He claimed that we made him sick when we made him shave his head. That's, well, if that's the case, 90% of the NBA is going to shut down, because I think all of them got bald heads. But okay. And but other than that, I mean, you know, can you imagine what we could have done with the facilities that NXT has and the setting to really get them ready for the next step up? Because on a smaller scale, NXT has a great look to it. I mean, but we had a fraction. I think we had 12 cents to the dollar of what they got to work with. And but it was Triple H's baby. He was going to spend money till he was out. But a fan wrote me just the other day and said, Kenny, he says, it is amazing, out of the 54 men that you put in the WWE, you have so many of them up there that are still making big money and are a featured part of the show. John Cena, Randy Orton, Brock Lesnar. Goddamn, if it wasn't for Lesnar, they might shut down. Dolph Ziggler. God, I'm trying to think, but there's 4 or 5 of them still up there that are making good money, and there's a few other subsidiary guys we had here at OVW that are up there still under contract, still making money, and the girls, hell, a lot of the girls came from here. Maurice came from here, Mickey James came from here, Natalie came from here, Beth Phoenix came from here, who I think retired real early. I don't know why she did, but you know, I'm sure she's doing okay with Edge. And but we were just a and in 2019, around the corner, we still got guys up there making $1 million or more. And John Cena, God knows what. They all talk about Seth Rollins. Seth was primarily created by ROH. Our guys were created from dirt. Just about everybody that NXT has cranked out had made a real good name for themselves on the independent circuit somewhere else. Almost every goddamn one of them. Who have they created from dirt? You might be able to give them Roman Reigns, but do you think Roman Reigns is going to be going down in history as one of the greats of all time?
I think Roman Reigns is going to be going down in history as one of the cousins of The Rock.
That seems to be the status quo, and you have to find a way to get around the fans. I mean, I was a bad guy for 30 years, and then all of a sudden, one day at OVW, they wanted me to do the sub show, which was DCW. It was the developmental show to the developmental. You had to make it through DCW to make it to OVW, to make it to the WWE, and then eventually either TNA or whoever the hell we were contracted with. So I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a whole different bird out there now. Now you get through NXT, but they really treat NXT as if it's a third company. You got Raw, you got SmackDown, you got NXT. And there's many times that NXT looks like it's run better than the WWE. That's where I first got hooked on Shinsuke Nakamura at. He was over as a Kairi Sane, I think that's how she pronounces it. Her and I banter back and forth a little bit on Twitter, and I love her to death. What beautiful look. Got that insane elbow drop, was just awesome as over and over and over again. But fortunately, after 30 years in the business, you get enough stories that she doesn't necessarily hear them all on the same show. So hello to Jenny, Iloilo City, down in I call her Jenny by the ocean, because my daughter-in-law told her that I date 5 different Jennies. Which Jenny are you talking about? Which is not true, by the way. I just date Jenny by the ocean. And we are looking actually to maybe me moving to the Philippines this coming June or July. I've got to have a surgery here, and if all goes well and doctors permit it, we're going to go there. And Jenny and I are actually, at my age, 58, believe it or not, looking to be married in either June or July of this year. We've known each other for a few years now, and it's developed real well, and I'm very happy with her. So there's Jenny's plug on your show. Jenny got plugged in Belfast, Ireland. She's definitely worldwide fame now.
Well, maybe you shouldn't say that, because over here, plug means getting stabbed or shot. Well, let me ask you this question about OVW, and you mentioned his name a few times there. John Cena.
Yeah.
Do you think he was brought up from OVW too soon?
You know what? He probably was, because he probably needed to brush up on his wrestling skills and learn a little bit more wrestling. But then again, let's face it, Hulk Hogan got by with an ass drop and very minimal in-ring skills for a long time, but he knew how to do an ass drop. Well, we sure got off John Cena in a hurry, didn't we? But no, he was brought up a little soon, but it wasn't necessary, because he came into OVW already as a great promo. He was a promo cutting son of a bitch when he got here. So for that fact, he didn't need me. But what he did that was smart, well, the thing he did that wasn't smart is that he always tried to get over on me as far as humor. He always liked to insult me. Well, if you insult me, you're going to win the fans over. If you're calling me fat and saying that they don't have enough catering for me in the back, and, well, the seats aren't big enough for you, King, to fly on a plane, but that somehow worked with me and him. It shouldn't have, because the fans should have hated me, and they should have loved John because he was giving me shit. That he was. And but basically he needed to be like Hogan. He knew how to do 4 or 5 things, do them right, come up with a little gimmick, have a finishing move, and be able to cut a hell of a promo. And if you'll remember, that's what he did. He was up there under ruthless aggression. So now you've got Cena and Rico both almost going up at the same time and being major Impact players there. Rico was for about 5 years with the Billy and Chuck stuff. And we knew Cena would be a big star, but even I was not sure that he'd be the face of the company for as long as he was. And so, yeah, I take credit for a lot of his success, because he even told some reporters in Germany, now this was a long time ago that he said it, but they asked him who taught him the most that he learned in OVW wrestling. He says, well, I'm going to say something's going to surprise a lot of you. He says, the most I learned in wrestling, what I did not know how to do was how to be a heel. And he says, I learned how to be a heel from Kenny Bolin. He said, that SOB knows how to get people to hate him. And he said, and I watched how he did it. And he says, I think I learned a lot from him. But the thing is that Cena was never really required to be a heel. They hate him because they don't think he knows enough about wrestling after 20-something years of being in the business, or 17 years, however long it's been. And they hate him because he's a pretty boy, and every man that's in there, it's got a woman wants to. The guy is not going to like the guy that his girlfriend wants to.
That's the problem with good-looking people, is that
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
We're not well liked.
No, we're not. They hate us for some reason. I don't know why. And I'm glad you threw yourself in the group too, because if I'm going to force myself in it, you're welcome to come along with me.
Thanks.
What do you do? But no, but let's put it this way: you can't say he got called up too early, because hell, if he went up later, he might have got overlooked. Somebody else might have got a spot.
True.
It really all worked out for him, man. You can't complain. Rico should have still been there, though. He should have been there for another 10, 15 years. He's an ambassador to wrestling, but he got on the bad side of Vince over that happened with him and Booker T that I won't get into because none of it was true anyway. But and they have. There's no reason. Let's put it this way: you could have Raw tonight, and if Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, and Triple H walk down the aisle, those are the ones that get the biggest pops still to this day. And I didn't even throw Kane in that group because Kane has been there so long, and they've done so goddamn many things different with him. They know he's not a monster. When they had the biker gimmick going, they did to a deal. But when he was over, he was the Undertaker. And I tell you what, they should have put him back in the purple boots, had him wearing the hat that he wore, the crow on his shoulder, that they should have put everything back to its original status and not worry about the Undertaker evolving. He should have been the what's going to happen, because you can always bring a dead man back to put on a 5-minute shitty match. No offense to the Undertaker, but God damn it, you ain't what you used to be. So neither am I. That's why I don't manage anymore.
It's time for Undertaker to go sit in his farm for a while.
He's why not bring him out to ringside for a Mania? They can bring him out and have him set somebody on fire or strike him with a lightning bolt, get in the ring, stare some people down and choke slam somebody. But he does not need to be working 20 and 30-minute matches when you're only doing 2 or 3 matches a year. The reason he ended up in Saudi Arabia for this recent show, but wasn't it Saudi Arabia they went to, or the crown jewel, isn't that where they went?
Yeah.
The ones that murdered our photographer, but yet the wrestlers all went over there anyway, except for Cena and a couple others. The Taker was over there because they wanted him. Triple H was there because they wanted him. I can't remember. I think, didn't Shawn Michaels go too? And who knows how much money they pulled out to get them over there. I mean, they haven't been endless. Our Washington Post reporter over here, number one, Trump don't like the Washington Post. Number two, he said, well, he wasn't a United States a citizen. His kids were citizen, and he was a resident. I mean, he was welcome to be here as long as he.
You mentioned Jim Cornette there. From my perspective, people like Jim Cornette and Dave Meltzer, or they claim to be critics, but to me they're more a case of attention seekers.
Well,
you know, a lot of their criticism is real or just attempts at clickbait.
Let me ask you this, and I know Meltzer a little bit, and I know him to be an okay guy. Here's where my problem with Meltzer come in at. When Jimmy would get mad at OVW and take his ball and go home, or if WWE would fire him, Jimmy would all of a sudden hate OVW. Whenever, and Meltzer used to write the most glorious reviews of OVW, what a great show we were. We're better than Raw and SmackDown. He'd give out his awards. Many times we beat Raw and SmackDown in the award ceremonies, and Jimmy was so proud. But all of a sudden, Jimmy gets mad, takes his ball, and goes home once, and I think he got fired another time or two through WWE. And then all of a sudden, Jimmy gets mad. He even wants me to quit OVW. And I said, well, no, I like it here, and it keeps me on television. It keeps me making money. As long as I'm on TV, I'm a celebrity in this town, and I can keep. So, but then again, my podcasts weren't as hot back then as they are now. And because not only do I do my own on YouTube, and plus we just expanded to iTunes and Stitcher and all that stuff. And in the next several days and weeks, we will expand to all these other podcast sources. I've been living just on YouTube alone, which is not wise because a lot of people don't want to watch a podcast on YouTube. So now they're going to have an option each way. I'm one of the few in the world that does a live podcast. Do you do live shows?
No, because I tend to drink a lot, and sometimes I
get out of here. Wouldn't have known. Drunk now. But here's the thing. I'm one of the few podcasts. I've been around the 16th season starting in January. We do 2 live different podcasts. We do Facebook Live. We do 2 of those a month, guaranteed. And I do 4 YouTube shows live. So I'm doing 6 live shows. No one else is doing that. We take questions. It's totally, there's no script, no nothing. I sit down at a microphone and the audience controls the show. And if I'm not doing one of those type of shows, then if this show sucks, it's your fault because you're asking the questions. Now I have to deliver. So I take some play in this, but I'm only as good as the host is because the host has to keep the show going, ask the good questions, ask shit that I haven't answered 1,000 times. And that's hard to do because I've done a lot of people were trying to give me probably 15, 16 years I've been doing podcasts of one form or another. Hotline interviews. Hotlines was a form of podcasting. Hell, I started doing those in 95. How long is that? That's 23 years that I've been doing those type of interviews. How many and unfortunately, one of my criticisms of Jim Cornette is that once you've heard 2 or 3 of his shows, if me and him aren't on it going back and forth at each other, it's he bitches about religion, politics, and current events in his hometown and how much the stock market's Donald Trump's base. He can do no wrong to a certain group of people. And congratulations for that. I wish I had as many that were as dedicated to me as that are dedicated to him. But I think I have one of the better podcasts going because we do talk about religion a little bit. We talk about politics a little bit. We talk about wrestling a little bit. But it's not a wrestling podcast. People get, well, I tuned in here to watch wrestling. I want to hear wrestling questions. Well, ask one. And number 2, YouTube don't want to pay you. So I am an entertainer. I've always been an entertainer since the day I could talk into a microphone. So that's what we do. We entertain.
This is the big final question.
All right. So they say.
And this is the question that your whole career
All
and
right.
popularity will rely on this answer.
All right.
The Spice Girls are back.
Oh,
Who's
yeah.
your favorite Spice Girl?
Yeah. Oh, who's my favorite Spice Girl?
Yeah.
Gary. I like Scary Spice.
No, the answer we were looking for was Baby Spice.
I hated Baby Spice. I didn't like, well, Baby was okay. I hated Sporty Spice. That was the one I hated. But no, I like Scary. And I got something else for you. I got a scoop for you. You know they got their tour coming up, right?
I certainly do.
Yeah, they got their tour coming up. Did you hear who the big sponsor is going to be?
No.
Old Spice. And I didn't know you was going to ask me that question. I'm so glad you asked me that question.
Okay, thank you, Kenny. And remember, if you want to hear the 60-minute version of that interview with all the uncut stuff, go to Patreon. We'll also get uncut stuff with Bruce Pritchard, Jim Florentine, Joe Cumia, Dave Lander. It's all there. There's more coming soon. It's Hughezy. Bye-bye.